Have you ever felt like some of your old listings are maybe not getting views anymore and questioning if it's even showing up in search? Well, eBay has actually stated that after 9 30-day cycles, if an item in a saturated market hasn't sold, it is then labeled as an unproductive listing, which basically means that it's reached a point of no return and it's not likely for it to show up high in rankings when it comes to search. And eBay has actually recommended that the best thing you could do at this point is to create a new listing for those items. This makes me assume that after every month that your listing doesn't perform well, its visibility is going to continue to drop. So in this video, I'm going to talk about when and how to refresh old listings in order to give it one more fighting chance to make the sale. All right, so first off, let's talk about when to refresh old listings. So you shouldn't refresh your old listings if you're not in a saturated market, if you sell things that naturally take a longer time to sell or have less competition like vintage items, or your listings are still showing up on the first page of eBay. In this case, you may be still ranking well, but your item just hasn't found the right buyer. You only need to refresh your listings if you sell in a competitive category where your items can fall low in the rankings and get outperformed by newer listings. eBay is always going to push out newer listings, so the longer that it takes your item to sell, the lower it's going to fall in the rankings and the less likely it's going to sell. In this case, I want to give you 3 time frames of when to refresh your listings. Just know that these are not hard or fast rules, just a guideline for you to think about. Time frame number 1, if you're listing consistently, you have space available in your inventory, your business is moving forward, and you have a lot of new inventory to list, then you're probably better off not focusing on refreshing your listings. At this point, just continue to do what you're doing. You're better off spending your time creating new listings versus focusing on old ones. But if you happen to have the time and you do want to clean up your store, then I would say at this point, only focus on listings that are 9 months or older. Time frame number 2, same scenario that I just mentioned, but this time you're running out of inventory space, so you have to start moving items out of your store. In this case, I would say that you want to start refreshing listings that are 5 to 6 months old. Time frame number 3, now let's say you have a slower store, maybe it's a smaller store, it's a part-time or it's just something you do as a hobby and you have a lot more time on your hands, then you may want to consider refreshing listings that are not performing well once they're at least 4 months old. I wouldn't do it any earlier than that because you want to give your listing a chance to find the right buyer. And items can sell months after they've been listed, so you don't want to do any extra work that you don't have to. Also, if you don't have any items to list, or you need to take a break, or you have an emergency, or for some reason you haven't been able to source any items, you could use this as a strategy to keep listing daily in order to keep your store moving. In my experience, when you list daily, you're going to get more impressions on your items across your store, and when you stop, impressions tend to go down. So in my example, I typically schedule out a few weeks in advance in order to give myself a cushion if I need to take a break. But recently, it was the very first time that I got so busy that I couldn't source any new inventory, and I had caught up to all my scheduled listings and I didn't have any new inventory to list. So I used this strategy to schedule out more listings even though I didn't have any inventory to list. This is a cool little power tip that I just learned recently that is great for those who are extremely busy. Now, one more thing before we move on to the how. Refreshing listings is an opportunity for you to try again to make the listing as best as it can be in order to make the sale. You don't want to just refresh your listings without making any changes. There's a reason it didn't sell in the first place. You're going to want to adjust either the title, maybe the item specifics, the price, or worst case scenario, the photos. If it doesn't sell after another cycle or 2, you're probably going to want to remove it altogether because it's probably not a good item to begin with and it's better off not being in your store. Just make sure to pay attention and try to understand why this item did not sell so you don't make the same mistake and buy this type of item again. All right, so let's jump on the computer for me to show you how to do it. All right, so the very first thing you want to do is to head on over to your seller dashboard and make sure that your listings tab is selected. This is going to show you all the listings that you currently have active. So when you scroll down, you're going to want to sort your listings by start date. Now your columns are not going to look like mine because I've customized mine. So in order to do that, you want to head on over here to customize table. And here's going to show you all the options you can select to show up as a column. You want to make sure that you have selected start date and then hit save. Now when you scroll down, you're going to see the start date column and you can sort it by the newest listings or your oldest. If I toggle, it's now showing me the newest listing, which is less than a day old. And if I toggle it again, it's going to show me the oldest listing that right now is 5 months and 3 days old. So to end my listings, I can select how many I want to end, and then you want to select actions and end listings. Here it's going to ask you to confirm that you want to end these listings. So let's hit end listings. And now as you can see here, it says 2 listings were successfully ended. So now to find these ended listings, you want to look at the left-hand side menu. Here it says ended. So here they are. So what I want to do now is I want to open up these listings in a new tab. I use the keyboard shortcut Command click, but you can always right click and select open link in new tab. Really quick, you also see this option here that says relist, but you don't want to use that option because it's just going to relist the same exact listing. It's not going to distinguish it as a new listing. And what you want to do is to make it a brand new listing so that it refreshes as a brand new listing in the search rankings. So to make it a brand new listing, I want to select this option here that says sell a similar item. And this is basically assuming that you are creating a brand new listing of another item. But in this case, it's the same exact shirt. So I'm just going to change a few options and then list it again. Now at this point, I'm done. I can scroll to the bottom and just go ahead and list this item and it'll be active right away. But I personally always schedule out my listings. So you could do that by going here. Select the date, select the time. And now here, I'm going to go ahead and list it. Your listing has been scheduled. So at this point, you either have a live active listing or you have a listing that is scheduled. Once you have refreshed all your listings, you want to make sure you go back to your ended listings and delete them. So you do that by selecting the box, hitting actions, then delete, confirm that you want to delete it. And now that listing has been refreshed. One of the biggest takeaways that I want you to take from this video is that this is a good strategy to use as you're learning how to create better listings. But ultimately, your listings are only going to be as good as the items that you source. So it's extremely important to continue to learn exactly what are the items that have the best chance of selling. And for that, I recommend you watch this video where I tried to do exactly that as fast as I possibly could.